manager Manchester United could get.
Good to you. I
know, exactly. He's been amazing. I mean, the other one to put him was Caicedo.
Jamie Carragher once made it sound like a Liverpool legend made him sick. And the wild part is that the name was Mohamed Salah. This is a man who scored goals for fun. This is a man who carried Liverpool for years. And still, Carragher went on live television and tore into him. He did not hold back. He called the behavior a disgrace. He said Salah had thrown the whole club under the bus. For a moment, let that sink in. One of the most loyal Liverpool men ever going after one of the best players the club has had in the modern era. That is the kind of man Jamie Carragher is. He gave everything to Liverpool, and he expected everyone else to do the same. When they did not, he did not stay quiet. Think about how strange this is. Salah is the player who saved seasons. Salah is the player fans sing about. Most people who love Liverpool would defend him without a second thought. But Carragher did the opposite. He turned on him. He picked at him. He made him the bad guy. And he did it in front of the whole country. That is the puzzle at the heart of this story. Why would a Liverpool man attack a Liverpool great? The answer is not simple. It is not just about one contract or one set of comments. It goes much deeper than that. It goes all the way back to who Carragher is and what he believes football should be. And as this story starts to show how far Carragher's loyalty could go, give this video some hype if you want more football stories where the truth is messier than the headline. Tap that hype button now, because what comes next is not as simple as one angry pundit. It is about a man whose love for one club turned into a weapon he used on player after player. Carragher was a defender. He was hard. He was vocal. He played 737 times for Liverpool. He earned 38 caps for England. He built his name on fight, on sweat, on never giving up. To him, football was not just a game, it was a promise. You gave the club everything or you were not worth much at all. That is a strong belief. In many ways, it is a good one. But strong beliefs can turn sharp. They can turn cold. And over the years, Carragher's deep loyalty slowly became something else. It became judgment. He started to look at other players and decide who passed his test and who failed it. The ones who failed got no mercy. So when Salah began to use the press to push for a new deal, Carragher saw red. Salah had been speaking after matches in the mixed zone, the area where players talk to reporters. He used those moments to share his anger about how slow his contract talks were going. To most people, that was just a player wanting clarity about his future. To Carragher, it was a betrayal. He went on Monday Night Football and let it all out. He said Salah and his agent were playing a clever game. He said they were trying to cause as much damage as possible. He even said they were trying to get the manager sacked. These are heavy words. These are not the words of a calm pundit. These are the words of a man who took it personally. Now think about what that says. Carragher was not just upset about one moment. He was upset that a modern star would dare to put himself first. To Carragher, the club came before the man. Always. He could not accept that a player like Salah might have his own goals, his own worries, his own right to speak. This is where the negative side of Carragher starts to show. He acts like the guardian of Liverpool. He acts like he alone gets to decide what loyalty looks like. And anyone who does not match his old school view becomes a target. To really understand why Carragher judged players so hard, you have to understand the man himself. Carragher cared about Liverpool more than almost anything. The club was not just his job, it was his identity. He grew up wanting this, he bled for it on the pitch, and he carried that weight every single day. He saw football through the eyes of sacrifice. To him, a player should suffer for the badge. A player should run until his legs gave out. A player should care more about the team than about himself. That was the only way he knew how to play. It was the only way he respected. Because of this, he hated certain things with a passion. He hated laziness. He hated distraction. He hated selfishness. If he thought a player was not trying, it made his blood boil. If he thought a player cared more about fame than the team, he could not stand it. There was also fear inside him. Carragher feared losing. In the biggest games, that fear took over. His former teammate Peter Crouch spoke about this. Crouch said Carragher was gripped by a deep, almost frozen worry in high-stakes matches. The Merseyside derbies were the worst. The fear of losing was so strong that it shaped how he acted on the pitch. This is an important point, so hold on to it. Most people think of a tough defender as fearless. They picture a man with no nerves, a man who feels nothing but anger. But Carragher was the opposite. He was full of fear. He carried it with him. He was scared of failing, scared of letting the club down, scared of the shame of a loss. That fear was the engine that drove him. And fear is a strange thing. It can make you sharp. It can make you careful, but it can also make you angry and cold. When you're scared of losing, every small thing feels like a threat. Every mistake feels like the start of a disaster. You stop seeing the game clearly. You start seeing danger everywhere. That is what happened to Carragher in the biggest moments. That fear made him intense. Some of that intensity was good. It pushed him to be a great defender. It made him focus. It made him fight. But the same fear had a dark side. It made him snap. It made him explode at small mistakes. It made him treat any error like a disaster. And here's the problem. That intensity sometimes crossed the line. It went from passion to something harsher. He did not just want to win, he needed control. He needed everyone around him to be perfect. When they were not, his anger spilled out. Later, when he became a pundit, that same edge came with him. He did not soften. He did not learn to let things go. The microphone just gave him a bigger stage. The anger that once lived in the dressing room now played out on national TV. The grudges that once stayed private now became public shows. So now we come back to Salah with all of that in mind. Salah is not a weak player. He is not a bad signing. He is one of the greatest the club has had in years. That is what makes Carragher's attack so striking. It shows that even greatness did not protect you from his judgment. Salah's so-called crime was simple. He wanted a new contract, and the talks were dragging. So he spoke about it after games. He let the public know he was frustrated. That is all. He did not refuse to play. He did not down tools. He used his voice. But Carragher did not see it that way. He accused Salah and his agent of planning a media campaign. He said it was calculated. He said it was meant to cause maximum damage. He said it was designed to get the manager sacked. He turned a contract dispute into a war. Then he went further. He said Salah threw Liverpool right back under the bus for 8 years. 8 years. Think about what that means. Carragher was not just talking about one bad week. He was rewriting Salah's whole time at the club. He pointed to the mental toll on teammates. He said they had to play behind a forward who put his own brand first, who did not give enough back on defense. And he did not stop there. He reached into Salah's past to cut deeper. He reminded everyone that before Liverpool, before Jurgen Klopp, Salah was known as the guy who failed at Chelsea. That is true. But Carragher used it like a weapon. He used it to shrink Salah, to make him feel small. He also brought up the Africa Cup of Nations. He pointed out that for all of Salah's success, he never won that trophy with Egypt. Again, this was true, but again, it had nothing to do with the contract. Carragher was not just judging the moment, he was attacking the player's whole legacy. This is the heart of the negative angle. Carragher came across as a man who could not accept the modern game. Players today have power. They have agents. They have brands. They move for big money. They speak their minds. That is the world. Now Carragher hated it. He treated the club like something sacred. He treated the player like a sinner. To him, Liverpool was a holy place, and Salah had stained it by daring to ask for more. But football has changed. Salah was not wrong to want clarity. He was not wrong to speak. Carragher's reaction said more about his own values than about any real crime. And there is something else to notice here. Carragher built his whole career at one club. He never had to fight for a new deal at a rival. He never had to think like a player whose career is short and whose future is never safe. He had one path, and he walked it with pride. But not every player gets that. Most players have to look after themselves, because no one else will. Salah, for all his goals, knew that. He knew his worth, and he wanted the club to know it too. Carragher could not see that side of it. He only saw the club's view. He only saw the badge. He could not put himself in Salah's shoes, even for a second. And that is the real weakness in his attack. It was not that he loved Liverpool too little. It was that he loved it so much he could not imagine anyone having a different point of view. If the Salah feud shows Carragher fighting the modern game, the next story shows him fighting a single man for almost his whole life. This is the longest and deepest feud of them all. This is El Hadji Diouf. The story begins in 2002. Diouf had just lit up the World Cup with Senegal. He looked like a star. Liverpool moved fast. The manager, Gerard Houllier, paid £10 million for him. The hope was huge. The plan was that Diouf would lift Liverpool up. He would help them fight for the league title. That was the dream. But the dream died fast. Carragher and the other core Liverpool players took one look at Diouf and saw a bad fit. It was not about his skill. It was about his attitude. They saw a man who did not match what they believed in. This was a clash of two whole worlds. On one side stood Carragher and the homegrown players who lived and breathed Liverpool. On the other side stood Diouf, a man who seemed to play for himself. These two sides could never meet in the middle. The gap was too wide. It was not a small problem that time would fix. It was a deep split in how they saw the game and the world. Remember what Carragher valued. He valued self-sacrifice. He valued loyalty to the club. He valued effort above all. And Diouf in their eyes was the opposite. Diouf came across as a man who cared about himself first. He came across as lazy. He came across as detached, like he did not feel the results the way they did. The work rate was the first problem. In preseason training, the squad quickly worked out how little Diouf put in. The judgment was so low that he became the last pick in the daily 5A-side games. Think about that. A £10 million signing, a World Cup name, and his own teammates did not want him on their side in a small training match. That tells you everything. In a dressing room, that kind of thing matters more than people outside the game realize. Training is where trust is built. It is where players learn who they can count on. When the whole squad quietly decides they do not want a man on their team, even in a small game, the verdict is already in. Diouf had lost the room before the real games even mattered. And once a dressing room turns on a player, there is almost no way back. Then came the moment that turned dislike into disgust. In 2004, Liverpool crashed out of the FA Cup to Portsmouth. It was a painful loss. It was the kind of defeat that hurt deep. That loss helped end Houlier's time as manager. The mood was dark. Players like Michael Owen were crushed. They were in a state of deep sadness. They felt the pain of losing. That is how Carragher believed everyone should feel. The team had failed, and the team should hurt together. But Diouf did not act that way. The next morning, he reportedly arrived at the training ground blasting rave music. He danced across the car park. While his teammates were broken, he was celebrating, or so it looked. To Carragher, this was unforgivable. It showed that Diouf did not care. It showed he was not one of them. Picture that scene for a moment. A group of men sit in pain, replaying the loss in their heads, feeling sick about it. They walk in heavy and quiet, and there is Diouf, music blaring, dancing, light on his feet, like nothing had happened at all. For a man like Carragher, who carried every defeat like a wound, this was the worst thing he could see. It was not just that Diouf was happy, it was that he seemed happy when the team had failed. That was the line. That was the moment the dislike became something deeper. There were other things too. Diouf had a habit of crossing lines. He was once fined £60,000 for spitting at Celtic fans during a UEFA Cup match in 2003. That is a shocking act. Later, he taunted a QPR player named Jamie Mackie. Mackie was lying on the pitch with a broken leg, and Diouf mocked him. These acts built up. They painted a picture of a man with no respect. Each one of these moments told the same story to Carragher. Here was a man who did not seem to feel for others. Spitting at fans crosses a line that most players never go near. Mocking a man with a broken leg is the kind of act that turns a whole sport against you. To Carragher, who believed in respect and standards, these were not just bad moments, they were proof of a bad character. For Carragher, all of this added up to moral disgust. He did not just dislike Diouf as a player, he disliked him as a person. And that kind of dislike does not fade, it hardens. Over the years, Carragher made his feelings public again and again. He called Diouf the worst signing in Liverpool's history. He called him the worst footballer he ever played with. He even pointed out a strange fact. He noted that Diouf was probably the only number 9 in club history to go a whole season without scoring. That is a brutal line. It is the kind of line meant to hurt, and Diouf hit right back. He did not take it quietly. He branded Carragher useless. He called him a loser. He said Carragher only brought up his name to sell books. The two men traded insults across the years. It became a bitter, public war that never seemed to end. Now, here's the negative angle on Carragher. Yes, he had real reasons to be angry. Diouf's behavior was poor. The spitting and the taunting were genuinely ugly. No one would defend those acts, but Carragher could not let it go. Years passed, decades passed, and still he fed the feud. He kept the fire burning, he kept attacking. At some point, the question becomes simple. Who is the one who cannot move on? A real leader might have closed the book long ago, but Carragher kept it open. He kept telling the story. He kept landing punches. The hatred became part of who he was. And that says something about him. not just about Diouf. Think about the years that have passed. Diouf left Liverpool a long time ago. Both men have lived whole lives since then. Both have had careers after football. And yet the anger is still fresh. Carragher still brings him up. He still calls him the worst this and the worst that. He still uses his name. For a man who claims to be all about moving forward and winning, he sure spends a lot of energy on a player from decades ago. And that is the trap of holding a grudge. The longer you carry it, the more it shapes you. It starts as a fair reason to be upset. It ends as a part of who you are. Carragher let his anger at Diouf live for so long that it became a fixed point in his story. Every time he tells it, he proves the same thing. He proves that he too cannot let go. The next player shows a different side of Carragher's judgment. This one is not about personal hatred. This one is about cold punditry. This is Mario Balotelli. In 2014, Liverpool had a problem. Their best striker, Luis Suarez, had left. The club needed a new scorer. They turned to Balotelli, an Italian forward with big talent and a big name. They paid £16 million for him. The manager, Brendan Rodgers, hoped Balotelli would fire the attack back to life. Carragher hated the signing from day one. He was a pundit now, watching from the studio, and he made his view clear at once. He saw the move as a mistake. He saw it as a failure by the people who ran the club's transfers. He did not give it a chance. But here's the key thing. His problem was not really about Balotelli's wild off-field life. Balotelli was famous for strange behavior. He made headlines for all sorts of stunts, yet that was not Carragher's main issue. His issue was about what happened on the pitch. Carragher pointed to a lack of effort. He pointed to Balotelli's habit of switching off in defense. He pointed to how the striker was up and down, never steady. To Carragher, a player like that gave nothing reliable. He was a gamble that did not pay off. Carragher made an interesting argument. He said that top players are sometimes allowed to be strange. If you win games, people forgive your quirks. If you score the goals that matter, you earn the right to be different. But Balotelli did not deliver. His output was poor, so there was nothing to forgive him with. The numbers backed Carragher up. Balotelli scored just 4 goals in 28 games for Liverpool. He picked up more yellow cards than goals, 7 yellow cards against 1 league goal. That is a sign of a player who hurt the team more than he helped it. Carragher's verdict was harsh and clear. He said he could not recall Balotelli having a single good game for Liverpool. Not one. And he went after the bigger idea too. People kept saying Balotelli had elite talent. Carragher questioned that. He suggested that talent without focus and work rate is worth nothing at all. In his eyes, ability means little if you do not apply it. There is truth in that. A lazy genius helps no one. But here is the negative angle. Carragher reduced Balotelli to a lesson. He turned him into a warning sign. He used him as proof of a point. He did not treat him as a full footballer who might have had reasons, struggles, or bad luck. He just used him as a symbol of waste. That is a cold way to judge a person. It is easy to do this with a player like Balotelli. He was an easy target. He had a wild name and a wild story. People had already decided what kind of man he was. So when Carragher tore into him, no one stopped to ask if there was more to it. No one asked if a new club, a new country, and a new manager might have played a part. No one asked if Balotelli might have been used wrong or set up to fail. Carragher did not ask either. He just slotted him into his story as the lazy waste of talent and moved on. That is what punditry can do. It can flatten a person into a single line. Balotelli became a punchline, not a player. And once that happens, the real human behind it disappears. He stops being a young man far from home, trying and failing in a hard league. He becomes a meme, a lesson, a warning. Carragher helped build that. He took a struggling player and made him a symbol for everyone to mock. The next player was not lazy and was not loud. He was simply unlucky. And Carragher never forgave him for it. This is Alberto Aquilani. In 2009, Liverpool lost a key man. Their midfielder Xabi Alonso left for Real Madrid. The club needed a replacement. They signed Aquilani, an Italian midfielder, for a large fee, around £17 million. On paper, he had real quality. But there was a problem from the very start. Aquilani arrived already hurt. He came to Liverpool with an injury that was there before he even kicked a ball, and things did not improve. His one season at the club was filled with physical setbacks. His body kept failing him. The numbers tell the story. He missed 21 games in that single season. he managed only 28 appearances in total. He never got a clean run. He never got going. Soon the club moved him on. He went on loan to Juventus, then he went on loan to AC Milan. Finally, he left for good, joining Fiorentina in 2012. Carragher placed Aquilani on his list of the 3 worst transfers in the club's history, right next to Diouf and Balotelli, and he summed him up with a sharp line. He said Aquilani was signed injured, left injured, and that he could not remember him ever not being injured. It was a clever line. It got a laugh, but it was also cruel. Think about what Carragher was really doing. He was mocking a man for being hurt. Aquilani did not choose to be fragile. He did not want to spend his time on the treatment table. No player does. His body let him down. That is a sad thing, not a crime. But to Carragher, durability was everything. His own career was built on it. He was famous for being tough, for playing through pain, for never breaking down. He took huge pride in that. And because of that pride, he had no patience for a man whose body could not cope. This is the negative angle. Carragher judged Aquilani through his own strength. He could not understand a man who was different. He saw weakness where there was just bad luck. He turned a story of injury into a story of failure. That tells you how narrow his view could be. There's a deep unfairness in this. Carragher was lucky, yes. He worked hard, and yes, he was tough. But part of being tough is simply having a body that holds up. Some players are blessed with that. Others are not. It is not always a choice. It is not always about character. Sometimes a player just gets dealt a weaker hand when it comes to fitness. Aquilani was one of those players. But Carragher did not see luck. He only saw fault. In his mind, if you could not stay fit, you were not good enough. Full stop. He did not allow for the simple sad fact that bodies break and that no amount of will can always fix them. So he mocked a man for something that was largely out of his control. He used a clever line to get a laugh at the cost of a player who was probably just as frustrated by his own injuries as anyone. That is the cold edge of Carragher's view. It left no room for bad luck, only blame. The next clash is the most shocking of all. It did not happen in the studio. It did not happen years later in a feud of words. It happened live, on the pitch, with his own teammate. This is Álvaro Arbeloa. Arbeloa was a Spanish defender. He played for Liverpool alongside Carragher from 2007 to 2009. They were on the same side. They wore the same shirt. They should have been partners. But Carragher's intensity did not care about that. In May 2009, Liverpool played West Bromwich Albion. During that match, the TV cameras caught something stunning. Carragher grabbed Arbeloa by the throat, on the pitch, in front of everyone. His own teammate. Other Liverpool players had to rush in and pull them apart. What started it? It was small. It was a defensive mix-up. There was a problem with positioning and marking. Someone was in the wrong spot, or someone read it wrong. That is it. A normal moment in a normal game. The kind of thing teammates sort out with a quick word, but not for Carragher. For him, that small error was huge, and to understand why, you go back to that fear of losing. Remember what Peter Crouch said. Carragher was gripped by deep worry in high-stakes games. He had a hyper-alert mind. Any small slip, any error, any bad decision by a teammate set him off. It got an instant, loud, and sometimes physical reply. His defensive mind demanded control. He needed everything to be right. He needed everyone in place. When the shape broke even a little, he could not handle it. The fear took over, and the fear came out as anger. Now think about what this really means. This was not just passion. People love to call it passion. They love to say he just cared a lot. But grabbing your own teammate by the throat is not passion. It is a loss of control. It is fear turned into aggression. This is the negative angle at its sharpest. Carragher's fear of mistakes was so strong that it turned him against his own side. A man on his own team became his enemy for a single error. That is not leadership. That is something darker. It shows how far his intensity could go when no one stopped it. And think about how this must have felt for Arbeloa. He was a teammate. He was on the same side, trying to win the same game. He made a small error, the kind every defender makes. And his reward was a hand around his throat in front of a packed stadium and a watching TV audience. That is a frightening thing to happen at work. It would shake anyone. It would make you wonder who was really on your side. Some people will still call this passion. They will say it shows how much Carragher wanted to win. But there is a difference between wanting to win and losing control. Wanting to win makes you talk to a teammate, push him, urge him on. Losing control makes you grab him by the throat. One builds a team. The other tears it apart. Carragher crossed that line, on camera, against his own man. And no amount of talk about passion can fully explain it away. These 5 players paint a clear picture. But to truly see the pattern, you have to look at the rivals around the edges of Carragher's life. They explain so much. Take Thierry Henry. Henry was the Arsenal forward who broke Carragher mentally. Carragher admitted this himself. He said Henry was the only opponent in his whole career who got inside his head. For 2 years, from 2002 to 2004, Carragher was filled with worry before facing him. Henry had pace. He had strength. He had perfect skill. He was a nightmare to defend. Carragher spent whole match days just trying to stop him, and later in a twist, the 2 men became media partners on CBS. The old fear became a friendly show. Then, there is Gary Neville. Neville was a Manchester United man. For years, he and Carragher were enemies. They fought for rival clubs, they wanted to beat each other badly. But after football, they joined forces. They built a famous double act on television. They argue, they analyze, they entertain. 2 old rivals turned into a money-making team. There is also Matt Letizia. Carragher reportedly threatened him off-air. The 2 did not see eye to eye. Letizia was a player who relied on natural talent over hard fitness work. That clashed with everything Carragher believed. And when Letizia challenged him, Carragher got aggressive about it. There's Michael Owen too. Owen was once a Liverpool hero, a brilliant scorer, but he left for Real Madrid and later joined Manchester United. To Liverpool fans, that was a betrayal. The anger was so deep that Owen was booed at Carragher's own testimonial match. The crowd and Carragher's world held him in contempt. And there is Jose Mourinho's Chelsea. Carragher hated that team. He hated their swagger. He called them cocky and arrogant. They had sudden money and sudden power, and the whole league resented them. The hatred was so wide that when Liverpool beat Chelsea in 2007, even Manchester United players celebrated in their hotel. That is how disliked that Chelsea side was. Look at all these stories together. Henry, Neville, Letizia, Owen, Chelsea. Carragher's football life was full of conflict. Some of it became fun entertainment later. Some of it stayed bitter forever. But it was always there. Conflict followed him everywhere. And that is the real point. The disdain was not a one-off. It was not a single bad mood. It was part of who Carragher was. It was woven into his whole career. He moved from fight to fight, from grudge to grudge. Some he made peace with, some he never did. Notice the pattern in who he forgave and who he did not. He made peace with Henry and Neville, 2 men he once feared and fought. Why? Because there was money and fame in the friendship. The conflict became a show, and the show paid well. But the men he could not turn into a prophet, like Diouf and Letizia, stayed enemies forever. That tells you something uncomfortable. Carragher could bury a grudge when it suited him. He could shake hands and smile for the cameras. The hate only stayed alive where there was no reward for letting it die. So what do we make of Jamie Carragher in the end? It would be easy to just call him angry and leave it there, but that would not be fair. There is real good in this man, and it should be said. He was loyal. Few players have ever loved a club the way he loved Liverpool. He gave it everything he had. He fought for it, he bled for it, he never wanted to play for anyone else. In a world where players move for money all the time, that kind of loyalty is rare and real. He cared deeply. Every loss hurt him, every mistake stung. He held himself to a brutal standard, and he never asked others for something he did not give himself. He was honest, he spoke his mind. He did not hide behind soft words. That takes a kind of courage. In a game full of safe answers, he gave real ones, and that is rare. But here's the hard truth, and it is the heart of this whole story. Carragher's problem was never that he cared too little. His problem was that he cared so much that it twisted into something harmful. Anyone who failed his test became a target. Salah, the star; Diouf, the misfit; Balotelli, the gamble; Aquilani, the injured man; Arbeloa, his own teammate. None of them were safe. His love for the club gave him a sense of right. He felt he could judge others, attack others, never forgive others. He turned football disagreements into personal wars. He kept old grudges alive for years. And when he became a pundit, he made those grudges into public entertainment, played out for everyone to see week after week with the cameras rolling. That same fire that made him a great defender also made him cruel at times. The passion that drove him forward also pushed him to grab a teammate by the throat. The loyalty that made him special also made him unable to accept anyone who did not share it. The two were never apart. So this is the man, one of Liverpool's fiercest defenders, a player who gave his whole heart to one club. A man you could admire for his fight and his loyalty, but also a man whose fire could burn the people around him. He was loyal, proud, and honest. He was also harsh, unforgiving, and sometimes unfair. Both things are true. They lived side by side in the same man, and neither one cancels the other out. And maybe that is the lesson here. Sometimes the very thing that makes a person great is the same thing that makes them hard to love.